Hello guys, we are going to talk about a drama sport film called The Karate Kid from 2010. A lot of interesting things are waiting for you. The movie begins with 12-year-old Dre Parker and his mother Sherry moving from Detroit to Beijing because Sherry got a new job. They arrive in a small neighborhood where Dre is approached by another American boy. The guy accompanies Dre and his mother to their apartment and helps them with their luggage, and then invites Dre to go play in a nearby park that is visible from the apartment window. After a while, the landlady comes by and shows her new tenants around. She says that if Sherry needs any help, she can call Mr. Han because he is the caretaker of the apartment and speaks English very well. After the landlord leaves, Sherry wants to take a hot bath. However, a problem arises, and she asks her son to call Mr. Han. Dre goes to Mr. Han's room and calls out to him, but Mr. Han ignores him because he is busy eating lunch. Suddenly, Dre sees several children walking to the park, and he follows them. There he sees a young and pretty girl, Mei Ying. She also reciprocates his feelings. To impress her, Dre plays ping pong with some old men, but unfortunately loses. Mei Ying is also intrigued by this new guy and his funny antics, so she can't take her eyes off him either. His friend advises him to go and talk to Mei Ying. Dre approaches her, and the girl talks to him politely. She really likes his dreadlocks. Meanwhile, the guys standing at a distance notice them. One of them is Cheng, who turns out to be a rebellious kung fu fighter. He is angry with the girl for making friends with a stranger and throws her papers on the ground. Dre sees this and immediately picks up the papers and gives them to the girl, but Chung is hostile to our little hero and brutally pushes him to the ground. Because of this, Dre feels pain in his chest, as well as bruises under his eyes. He then sadly returns home, feeling humiliated. The next day, he tries to cover his black eyes with his mom's makeup. He also goes to school wearing a cap, but he cannot fool his mother for too long, and she eventually notices his bruises. When she tries to talk to him about it, Dre comes up with an excuse. To his great disappointment, Chung and his friends also go to the same school. Dre tries to avoid them. When he gets home from school, he tries to learn kung fu while watching TV. That's when Mr. Han comes to the apartment to do some repairs. He notices the boy. Han inspects the pipes in the bathroom and fixes them. After the work is done, he asks the boy about the wound on his face, but the boy again makes an excuse and continues to practice. He ignores his mom, and Sherry is angry with him for it. The next day at school, Mr. Han notices everything from afar. Chung and his friends were threatening Dre and telling him not to be friends with the Chinese kids at school, including Mei Ying. Because of this, Dre was left alone and left the school with a sad face. He and his mom went to the local market to buy some food. Suddenly, he hears some kids practicing kung fu in the neighboring street. He excitedly follows the sound and discovers a large kung fu academy where people are practicing martial arts. He goes inside and finds that Chung is one of the strongest kids there. Dre's mood soon changes, and he leaves the academy with a rather sad face. His mother tries to ask him about his mood, but Dre refuses to tell her anything. However, after much persuasion from his mother, he eventually bursts into tears, saying that he doesn't like China and the way people treat him here. He wants to go back to Detroit as soon as possible. In response, his mom says he is being silly and they need time to calm down. Meanwhile, Mr. Han seems to be watching these events unfold from his apartment. In the next scene, Chung and his friends continue to laugh at Dre and only stop when the landlady intervenes. Dre comes across buckets of sewer water, and he is furious at the way he has been treated lately. He pours the water on his bullies, and a few minutes after, Chung and his friends beat Dre severely until he is rescued by Mr. Han. The bullies attack Mr. Han, but to their surprise, he turns out to be a kung fu master. Mr. Han effectively defeats Chung and the bullies before taking the injured Dre to his home. After he has helped the boy with his injuries using an ancient fire technique, Mr. Han explains that Chung and his friends are not necessarily bad people, but they have been influenced by their master Lee, who teaches them to be ruthless bullies. Dre asks Mr. Han to teach him kung fu, but he refuses at first. Instead, he takes him to meet with Master Lee at the Battle Dragon Academy to reconcile him with Chung. However, the ruthless Master Lee proposes a fight between Dre and Chung. Mr. Han thinks for a while and comes up with another solution. He invites Dre to participate in an open martial arts tournament against Master Lee's students. If Dre comes, the students will leave him alone so he can train for the competition. Master Lee agrees because he knows that Dre doesn't have what it takes to win. After that, Mr. Han promises to teach Dre kung fu and begins training, focusing on moves that have broader applications in life. For example, he first makes the boy lift his wet jacket. During the first week, he plans to teach Dre the importance of patience and determination, because kung fu is not just about fighting skills. Mr. Han also emphasizes that true mastery of the art comes from inner peace and maturity, not just physical training that involves repetitive movements with a jacket. Dre allegedly develops true muscle memory. One day, Dre approaches his lover Mei Ying, and they make a deal in which they promise each other that Dre will come to Mei Ying's audition and that she will come to Dre's tournament at any cost. Later, Mr. Han takes Dre to a temple in the Wang Mountains. On the way, he tells the boy that he wants him to achieve great power. This is the ultimate test of patience and strength. and that this power is not given to everyone. Arriving at the mountains, Dre sees a woman imitating the movements of a cobra. Dre drinks water from an ancient well below. He learns that the water gives him inner strength and harmony. After the workday is over, Mr. Han allows him to spend time with Mei Ying. They have fun at the market, tasting different foods and indulging in various activities. Because of this, Mei Ying almost missed her violin audition, which was rescheduled without her knowledge. Because of this, her parents decided that Dre was a bad influence on her and forbade her to see him. That's when Chung and his friends come to the classroom and make fun of him. They also remind him of the upcoming tournament and threaten to beat him in the first round. The next day, Dre comes to Mr. Han's house and finds him drunk. He has crashed the car he was working on with Han. He then tells Dre a story that broke his heart. Many years ago, he crashed the exact same car, resulting in the tragic deaths of his wife and 10-year-old son. Despite the fact that he repaired the car every year, Mr. Han deliberately destroys it as a painful reminder of the horrific incident. This conversation has a profound effect on Dre, motivating him to train even harder to help his teacher heal from his emotional wounds. Over the next few weeks, Mr. Han continues to train Dre, and even takes him to the Great Wall of China. Dre gradually masters kung fu skills through his hard work. Meanwhile, Mei Ying continues to ignore him at school. Mr. Han notices Dre's upset mood during one of his training sessions. The boy talks about his broken friendship with Mei Ying. Mr. Han helps him write the words and make a sincere apology in Chinese to Mei Ying's father. Luckily, the man accepts the apology and assures him that Mei Ying will be at the tournament to support him. Later, Mr. Han takes Dre to the tournament venue, where he wants him to be prepared for the environment. He also hands him a suit to wear tomorrow. In the next scene, the day of the tournament has finally arrived, and Mr. Khan lets Dre know that he has to score 2 points to win the match. At first, he tries to keep up with his rivals, but in his first match, he backs down, which gives his opponent the opportunity to get the first point for himself. Just as he's about to give up, Mr. Han shouts a few words of encouragement at him. This is enough to enrage Dre, and he knocks his opponent down and wins. Dre eventually makes it to the semifinals, and Mr. Han lets him know that he has to get 3 points to make it to the finals. Chung, on the other hand, aggressively defeats his opponents, showing no mercy to anyone. In the semifinals, Dre barely manages to defeat one of Master Li's students, but in the process, he suffers a serious leg injury. When he is taken to the infirmary for examination, the doctor informs him that he can no longer participate in the tournament in such a critical condition. Meanwhile, it is announced that Dre may be disqualified if he does not return to the ring. In an effort to overcome his fear and face Chung in the final, Dre begs Mr. Han to use the fire method to heal his leg. Mr. Han reluctantly agrees, and Dre enters the ring to fight Chung. The match becomes tense, and Chung throws Dre off the stage. His mom and Mei Ying begin to fear for the boy and pray for his safety. Fortunately, Dre gets back to his feet and punches Chung in the shoulders. The match eventually ends in a draw. The next round decides who will become the champion. Just then, Master Li appears and reminds Chung of the Martial Arts Academy's motto. Meanwhile, the final round begins. Chung kicks Dre's injured leg, causing him to lose his balance. Despite this, Dre regains his confidence and uses a fighting technique he learned in the temple. Successfully deflecting Chung's attack, he performs a spectacular move and kicks Chung in the head. This not only secures his victory, but also earns him the respect of Chung and his classmates. They all bow to him in gratitude. The movie ends with Mr. Han and Dre carrying the trophy with a smile on their faces.